we're ready to go. Are we ready to rock and roll, Kristen? Should we get started? Give them a few more minutes, seconds?
Yeah, we can start talking about us. That's the part that we get really passionate about.
Okay. All right. So, well, welcome, CUSD students and families. We're really excited to have you here tonight. We have some really amazing guests with us to, talk about their amazing, incredible businesses and entrepreneurial, things that they have going on. So, to get us started, I do want to remind everybody that this webinar will be recorded. It will be added to our website on our webinar locker and our YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch it later, or if you want to share it with somebody else, it'll be there for your viewing pleasure. And then your mics and cameras are completely off. This is a webinar, so we can't hear you, we can't see you. If you do have questions, there will be a section at the end of the Q&A of the structured questions. There will be an opportunity for you at the end to ask questions to our wonderful panelists that are joining us tonight. So with that being said, let's just get started. First of all, we want to introduce ourselves. So our team, if you don't know already, we are CUSD-Futureology. We are college and career counselors with the district. We are all credentialed school counselors. All of us are experienced college admissions readers. All of our services are data-driven. And we provide a lot of support for our students and families at the district. We do a lot of one-on-one support, but we also do a lot of different events, including like this one. We do webinars, we do group workshops. So that's a kind of a quick introduction. Tonight, I am going to be hosting this webinar along with my colleague Kristen. So you might see her on the screen. So both of us are going to be kind of hosting this event. And we also have in the background our other colleagues, B and Jennifer, joining us. So the whole team is here. So say hello if you want to in the Q&A. And so for tonight, we have a very exciting theme. The theme of today is entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship, we want to kind of start with the definition of that, so we are all on the same page. So this is the process of creating something new. It involves designing, launching, and running a new business. And with this, with entrepreneurship, it generally does come with some risk, right? Building a business does come with risk. And so hopefully our panelists tonight talk a little bit about what that involved and what this whole process involved. But it also can include other things, other values that simply aren't just economic ones. So hopefully we can learn a little bit more of those other things that entail entrepreneurship tonight. And there are all kinds of types of entrepreneurs. Tonight we're going to hear from a couple of different ones. So you'll get a few different perspectives, but there's small businesses, family owned and operated businesses, there's social media, e-commerce. And there's also the large corporations that people think of when we talk about, that's the most common one people think about, and also small business. So tonight you'll get a different perspective, so that's really exciting. But with that being said, I want to introduce you to our great and panelists for tonight. First, we're going to start with Stuart Bias.
Hello.
Say hi, Stuart. So Stuart is the current owner of IT Bias. He's a YouTuber and founder of OG Social, a new ad and free platform that pays creators for their followers. He did create a YouTube channel in 2016 that reviews modified cars. That's super cool, in Southern California. And he has received over 6.5 million views in his channel. That's incredible. And then this, entrepreneurial thing that he did with starting his YouTube channel led to more amazing and exciting things. He started managing social media for luxury car dealerships, and then started his own, starting a new social media company. And now he has OG Social, which launched at the end of January, so pretty recent. And then he's taking it's taking over on Instagram and other giants too. And he's addressing a lot of different things with this platform with OG Social, including data privacy, too many ads, algorithms dictating views, and no money for creators. So that's something that's, really a big conversation within related to social media. So really important and things he's addressing. So welcome, Stuart. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was a great introduction. I appreciate that. Very happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. We're happy to have you as well. And we also have our two other panelists for tonight, Miranda and Ben. So Ben is the owner. Hi, say hello. Thank you for joining us, Ben and Miranda. So let me do, I'll do a quick introduction. And so Ben is an owner, proprietor of Snake Oil Provisions.
We both know. That's both of us.
Yes. Both of so both of you are the owners of Snake Oil Provisions. So it is a new menswear boutique located in Los Angeles, and then they also have a pop-up in Nashville, Tennessee.
Permanent store in Nashville.
Permanent store in Nashville.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Permanent store in Nashville.
Yep.
Thank you so much for correcting me. I want to make sure I get everything correct. And then they both co-founded and launched SOP in fall of 2013. And they also have an online store. And then they did have their brick and mortar opening the following summer after they started their online store. Before launching SOP or Snake Oil Provisions, Ben was a full-time touring professional musician and worked for over a decade with a wide range of retail settings for both small and large companies. Today's Ben's primary responsibilities include design, collaboration, strategic brand planning, strategic growth planning, VIP customer clienteling, social media management, in-house product development, and visual content creation. And in addition to all his other things, he also does everyday operations like sales, wealth fulfillment, accounts and payable, etc. So much things that are involved with running this amazing business. Let me talk a little bit about Miranda as well. So Miranda, before launching Snake Oil Provisions, worked in 2 and 4-year colleges in both academic and student services. So she was a current educator, which I love. And then she was an undergraduate advisor, part-time faculty, and in counseling and disability services. Miranda's roles now at Snake Oil Provisions are overall project management, staff management, store merchandising and design, visual content creation, creative copywriting, strategic planning, and everyday operations. Wow. Yes. Amazing. Amazing.
We wear a lot of hats. Yeah.
Yes. So welcome to the 3 of you. We are so excited to have you all. And we'll learn more about you as we go along with the questions. So I'm going to pass it all along to my colleague, Kristen, so she can start us off with the first question. I hope you all are ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like Monica said, my name is Kristen Jones-Manning. I'm another one of the counselors with the Futureology team. And we're going to go through a series of 10 questions this evening to try and learn a little bit more about your career path from kind of the start and, beginning stages, middle stages to where it is now. So our first question is kind of that beginning, formative part of your career pathway. So where did you go to school and what did you think you were going to be when you grew up? And let's start with Stuart.
Hey guys, everyone who's listening, thanks for joining us. Excited to be here. So I went to school, I went to a trade school, which was a 7-month program specifically designed for like the Microsoft certification program. And that was a fantastic experience that gave me a small class size. So it was only 8 people in our class. And I ended up going with my buddy. And I was living with him. So we would go to class, come home, redo the labs together, then we both go off to work, and then the next day do the same thing. I didn't start there though. My dad was the dean of biomedical sciences for UC Riverside. My mom went to Goucher back east. My sister went to UC Santa Barbara. So they all expected that I was going to go to a good 4-year college. And I started out going to UC Riverside, which was where I grew up. So I stayed in my hometown, went to the local college, got an apartment, which turned into the local party house for everybody who didn't go away to college, which resulted in 2 Ds and 1 F the first quarter and getting evicted from our apartment. So that rough patch of starting a 4-year college quickly let me realize that that wasn't for me. I wanted to get out in the field and make money. And our friend's brother, we heard he went to this style trade school, accelerated technical school, where they taught you a trade of learning essentially Microsoft Windows Server Management, which most businesses use. And we went out there, and after 7 months, we thought we were going to be qualified to make 50 grand, but instead we got entry-level jobs making $10 an hour. But that served as the starting point. We both, my friend and I, worked at that company, D-Link Systems, for 5 years, and ended up after 5 years making about $52,000, and then launched us into our real careers. I started going into IT consulting, and now I own my own IT consulting company, which has then given me the flexibility to dabble in YouTube and these other stuff, this social media stuff, which is new and not yet earning any money, but that's where I hope to go in the future.
Thank you so much, Stuart. I love that you were able to highlight some of the things that went right and maybe some of the things that you decided to do differently. But one thing that I think is a really big misconception when we ask this question is that college is the only pathway that students have. And it's definitely not true. Even as a college and career counselor, we know that it's not the fit for everyone. So it's great to hear from someone who's gone a totally different route and had a different experience and been still a huge success regardless. So thank you so much. Ben and Brandon, let's hear from you. Where did you go to school and what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Well, you go first.
You really want to follow?
Yeah, I'll follow.
Okay.
I'll follow.
I mean, my mother was an educator, so higher ed was just, it was no question. I was going to go all the way through. I thought I was going to go to medical school for a long time, started off pre-med, ended up switching for a lot of personal reasons, and just that's where I felt like my heart was really in counseling program. So ultimately I got a master's in counseling and psychology. I applied it in higher ed, which I had been working and putting myself through school the entire time. So I had a lot of higher ed experience, worked in counseling and student disability services for a while. And now I'm not using any of that. So, I mean, well, you know, we use our skill sets every day, but it's retail therapy instead.
Yep. I am the complete polar opposite, where I did not go to college of any sort, any shape or kind. I had always envisioned myself being like a rock star, for lack of a better term, that I cut my teeth and toured and recorded and did that whole thing for 15 years probably, and finally hung it up. I found along the way that I was actually really good at sales and being in a retail environment, and thrived in it. And I got to a point where I knew that I could do it as good or better than the best out there. And, you know, I'm late bloomers as far as starting a business is concerned. So late 30s, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this for myself. And here we are 8 years in.
Nice.
It's so great to hear the variety of experience that you all have started with, and then to see the progression of, you know, where you are now in your entrepreneurial, you know, career pathway. I think that that's really important to highlight for our students. So I appreciate your candor so much. And I'm going to hand it off to Monica, who's going to ask our second question.
Thank you. Thank you all. Well, I want to ask you all, like, who were some of your influences early on? Was there someone who influenced you to pursue your current path? I mean, I heard from Miranda, you know, that your mom kind of influenced you, but is there anyone else? Yeah. I mean, we can start with you, Miranda.
Not in this path. And I'll speak for both of our families who thought we were completely insane. We moved from the Southeast. We were in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were plotting for years before we moved here to come here and do this. But it was absolutely, I mean, our families were verbally supportive, but they still have no clue what we do today and don't believe that it's successful. So
Same.
We were each other's support, really. We told each other that this was going to work and we could do it.
Yeah. To echo what Miranda said, like I don't have entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't have a mentor. There wasn't any person or persons around me that did anything remotely like what we were trying to do.
No.
So we were on our own in that regard. And now we have some really close business colleagues that we've met along the way that are confidants. But as far as like family and that kind of thing,
no,
that's not part of it at all.
We were living in a part of the country, I'd say Southern California or California in general, West Coast is unique in that there are people do things every day. I say that's a job. To this day, I'm just amazed, you know, by the opportunities, but you never heard anyone in Atlanta say they were going to do what we wanted to do. So yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Stuart, I want to hear from you. Who are some of your early influences?
Yeah, so I thought about this, and I feel like I also didn't really have any business influences directly, but I feel like I drew a lot of influence and motivation from my good buddy Jeremy, who we ended up going to computer school together and living with. We also were in the drum line together in high school, which he was the drum captain, and he was always adamant about, you know, being, you know, on time to practice, practicing a lot off hours, and just, you know, putting in maximum effort. And we were really good. We won a lot of championships together. And it was his work ethic that I feel, I actually worked with him at a restaurant as a busboy previously. So I just got to learn a lot of how hard he worked. And that really set the playing field for my whole career, because essentially as we worked in every job, we just outworked everybody in every position, which made us the first person that anybody wanted to promote to any other available position, because we were always so eager to work and enthusiastic and genuinely curious about learning more technology. And we, you know, I worked for 5 years at D-Link, and then I worked as an employee for a small IT consulting company. And I eventually became owner of that company because my partner wanted to move away. My original boss, who made me a partner, but then he wanted to move away to South Dakota and sold me the company. So that's how I actually became my first business owner. It was much more traditional. I worked my way up through a big company, went to a small company, and then because he entrusted me with the company for years of hard work and dedication, he sold it to me. And then that gave me the confidence to start other businesses and, you know, evolve from there.
Love it.
Yes, I love it too. Thank you, all of you, for sharing. I think the main thing that I gathered was it was a lot of self-motivation, and also just relying on the motivation that your peers gave you. So it's really important who you're connecting with throughout your life. So that's the thing I hope that most of the people that are here also gather from.
Yeah, and going at something with like-minded individuals,
yes,
is just paramount to success.
Right.
And just to echo some things that Stuart said, there's like, you cannot measure how important hustle is.
For sure.
And like he said, outworking people.
Yes.
If because you, especially with small business, you get out what you put in. And if you can work harder than you ever thought you could, you'll be successful.
Right. And not overnight, it takes time, but through painstaking hard work, consistent, like it'll go. Like you just have to like move that bar just a little bit every day, and eventually you look back, you're like, wow, look where we're at.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for adding all those different points. Well, I'm going to pass it along back to Kristen for the next question.
You all have already touched on some of this, which is so awesome. We're leaning naturally, throughout our conversation this evening about some of your early jobs or internships. I think what I want to focus a little bit more on for this particular question is what valuable skills were you learning through those experiences? Obviously, grit and hustle are a part of being your own boss, being the one who is responsible for everything, that's a part of your company. But what specific skills were you learning or have you learned along the way that you think this is totally invaluable to being an entrepreneur? And I hope that other people practice or seek out these opportunities to learn these particular skills. And Miranda and Ben, we'll start with you this time.
Oh, this is great.
So,
I think problem solving, critical thinking, being in general proactive, being able to work independently very well without supervision. I mean, I don't know, there's something to be learned in every experience, no matter how small or insignificant a job may seem.
Yes.
Some of the jobs that are grunt work, when you have your own business, a lot of your day is grunt work. It isn't glamorous or pretty, but it's necessary. Oh geez.
Yeah.
Becoming comfortable with failure.
Yeah.
That's really important.
But you experience a lot of that. I think my work experiences were somewhat different in that I spent a lot of my work life in independent retail businesses, and that's where I learned what not to do, if that makes sense, as far as like processes and how to overall run a business. Because I worked for a lot of places that were successful in spite of how they ran it. So a lot of that stuff was invaluable. And I also want to stress, no matter what field you think that you're into, you're interested in, work in it. Because we have people literally weekly that come to us that be like, oh, I want to start a cool guy shop. How do I do it? And I was like, well, that's consulting. So if you're serious, you can pay me and I'll talk to you about it. But I will give you a free tidbit, and that is work in retail.
Which the record stops
And
every single time.
Yeah.
Silence. Yeah.
but then you're getting paid to learn how to do the business that you eventually want to own and run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Precisely.
Right.
yeah. Just slowly.
Yes. A lot of times when we talk
That experience was invaluable, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. A lot of times when we think about entrepreneurs or when we think about businesses or owning your own business, a lot of the assumptions around it are that it's very front facing. Like, we know who Jeff Bezos is. We know who some of these large corporations are, but there are so many businesses behind the scenes that you don't know what the owner or, professional looks like or what their business includes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So, there's definitely a lot of great lessons to be learned from that you could be, you could be working up, like Stuart mentioned, to own that company someday if you have the skill set to do so. So Stuart, do you have any other valuable skills to add on to some of that awesome information that Ben and Miranda shared?
Yeah, that was a really good answer, guys. I totally resonate with everything you guys said. My early jobs were Carl's Jr. dishwasher busboy. So I like to clean. I find pleasure in having something that's dirty, washing it and cleaning. I'm like, okay, I did it now, So I was always good with that. But obviously I wanted more, and I knew doing those kind of harder labor jobs that I wanted to do something with my mind and working smart instead of working hard, as my father, the professor, would always tell me. But that it gave me the ability to always be okay with hard work and doing, like you guys said, the nitty gritty. When you own your own businesses, like I cleaning toilets, I'm vacuuming, even though I have somebody that comes and cleans, a lot of the time she doesn't come, and that falls on our shoulders as business owners. Everything that doesn't get done, it's our responsibility. So just the willingness to do hard work. And another tip that comes to my mind was just, while I was working in these other companies, working my way up, getting experience, which is so important if you want to own your own business. I feel like a lot of people want to just fast forward to owning it, but you need the knowledge and experience. And to get there, there's so many other people in the industry, in the that you can get it from. And when you work at a job, and you're enthusiastic about learning, ask them what they're doing and take notes while they're telling you how to do stuff. And then that's how I got several other jobs, is when they would then leave, I'm like, oh, I can do his job. I literally have it all documented and have worked through it already. And it just sets you up for so much more knowledge, and you should be excited to learn, because that's only going to result in job security and ultimately, more money, which is what we're doing it for. Mostly. So, I mean, part of it.
Well, thank you guys for being so descriptive in some of the things that you mentioned. One just vocabulary word that I want to throw out for our students to summarize some of the points that you brought up is this concept of initiative, of taking initiative, of doing things without somebody asking you to do them. It's definitely a skill that is practiced and that is learned. So if that's not something that you feel like you do right now as a younger student or as you're starting your career pathway, it's something you can practice. It's something that you can work towards in any job opportunity or teamwork or group effort that you're a part of at your school. So that was a really awesome lesson for you guys to continue to promote. I'll pass it back on to Monica for our next question.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So next question. What would you say was the first big pivot in your career trajectory was? I think some of you already touched on it. And did you leave a job you didn't like or get a position you really wanted?
I'll start with this one.
Yeah, go ahead, Stuart. Sorry.
I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to jump in. So I worked at D-Link Systems for 5 years. That's a 300 people company in US, and then it's a worldwide. They have like 20 different campuses all around the world. Global company. I always wanted to work for a big company. I wanted to be an employee with job security. I wanted to make a salary, so I knew how much I was going to make every month, health benefits and all that. That's what I wanted. And then after 5 years of working there, I had the opportunity to work for a smaller consulting company, more money, but in my mind, it was less job security, and I was very weary about doing it. I did, and now I own that company, and I've worked with it, or now worked with them for 15 years. I've owned it for 5. But that was the pivotal moment, realizing that when you're in a big company, that doesn't necessarily mean you have job security. A few years later, after I left D-Link, they fired my manager and they fired the CEO pretty much out of nowhere. And the CEO had worked from the warehouse from 18 all the way up to being the CEO 25 years later. And they fired him like that for some political things unrelated to job performance. They had a restructuring internally, but that was the pivot, realizing that what I wanted in job security can be found in small business. And in fact, in small business, I'm the last employee that will have the job at my company. So, there's a lot that has to happen before I lose my job. Whereas at D-Link, it could be, I walk in the next day and they have outsourced my entire department. You just never know. So.
Yep.
Well, Ben and Miranda, anything you'd like to add from your own experiences? Thank you, Stuart.
I would say that I thought that I had my dream job, and life happens. I don't even know that we would have had the push to uproot our lives, move from Georgia, come to California and do what we did. I developed some really serious health issues that made me unable to do my job for several years. And it resonates what Stuart was saying, when you think that you have this very secure job, you're going to have a 401k, you have good health insurance, you have the benefits, and you don't know that overnight things can just change that are completely out of your control. So that, I'd say just like the past year for a lot of people, when you realize that life happens in such a big way, and it really hits you how short life is, and you really ask yourself, what do you want out of life? And am I fulfilled? Those questions, am I happy? And if the answers are no, then you really you don't know, hear the answer is no to yourself and then file that away and do nothing with it. It's something that I'd say is a great motivator. It's uncomfortable, but it's a great motivator for change. And it was for us. So I think that probably it's something that Ben really wanted to do for a long time, and he was really trying to make it happen in Atlanta, and it wasn't the right place and it wasn't the right time, and we made a plan to make it the right place and make it the right time. So you may have something else to add.
No, that's spot on. I mean, the only thing to comment on the question here is, for the first 6 months of SOP where we were online only, I still had a full-time job, so it was double duty. And we had a number in our heads that when SOP is making this particular dollar amount a month, I'm going to bounce out and go full-time SOP. And that happened, and that was pretty.
It still took him like another three months to have the courage to leave, probably.
Yeah, something like that. But I was able to, and it was completely life-changing and surreal and a little scary, but it was one of the best choices I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, congrats. And I think that's the way to do it. If you're going to start your own business, you have the ability to work it from a side hustle into a legitimate business. And then you can, okay, once I'm secure, then you can quit the earning job and then go passion project and make that your both. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
That's the responsible adult way to do it.
I do many responsible adult things, but that was one of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing that the theme is still going with taking initiative, right? Taking those steps to make sure that, that you are set up the way that you want to be set up, and that you are taking that initiative to move on to the next thing if necessary. I also heard a theme of adaptability, right? Being able to adapt with the changes that are going on with your life, and then also the changes that are going on within the bigger kind of environment or societal pressures and all of that, right? So I love all these themes in this conversation, but I'm going to pass it along to my colleague, Kristen, to make sure we're making good timing.
So this next question starts to touch on more of what you all are doing currently in your work. So can you describe what a typical day at your company looks like? What behind the scenes details? Again, Ben, I'm sorry we're not paying you for a consulting fee for this one, but what
it's for the kids. It's fine.
What behind the scenes details would somebody really want to know about the work that you're doing? So we'll actually start with Ben and Miranda.
That's a good one. Like we were saying earlier in the meeting, both of us wear probably 250 different hats, and we have to know how to do every single thing that can possibly be done to run the business. So where we do delegate, like we have a full-time store manager and a full-time guy in our national store, and we have a couple contract guys that do tons of stuff.
But that you mean like there's a designer on retainer, and photographers and
that kind of thing.
Right.
But my day looks like there's many hours on the computer via doing emails. Mm-hmm. So a ton of correspondence with mainly brands. I do a lot of the accounts payable, so the really non-glamorous, not fun stuff at all.
Means you pay the bills. He pays all the bills.
I pay all the invoices. I pay all the rents. I pay all the utilities. Which is payroll.
Yeah.
All that. We do so now. To give you a little inside look behind the curtain here. So we're doing it's buy season for fall winter.
Buying.
So we're getting ready to place orders for what we will have this coming winter. Okay. So what you do in the spring, you do like 6 or 7 months ahead. So we're knee deep in that. A lot of those are late.
So while it's a weird thing. It's a weird season. It's a busy season right now. Very busy for us. We're receiving new spring product. We're ordering for
winter product
next fall. And right now we're running Long Beach remotely, helping to run Nashville and building out a Los Angeles location.
Yes.
So
yeah. And then it's a lot of like visual stuff is critical to our business. So the majority of our business is e-com, and that is promoted via Instagram and web ads. So we have to strategically plan those assets. And we do videos weekly on Instagram, which people love them. There's a lot of engagement, and that translates a lot into revenue. So it's a lot of stuff, And then you do different stuff than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm overseeing every inbound delivery that is happening, making sure I coordinate with the photographer to book the shoots, coordinate with this guy to make sure he's present for the shoots and knows what to wear, coordinate with our staff to make sure they're on top of prioritizing the most important things that need to be done. Coordinating with, I mean, that's my job as a project management is essentially coordinating all the work that has to be done for the .com and the physical spaces.
Yeah, and then you're
and right now I'm also being kind of general contractor over a new store build out. So
yeah.
Wow. In our previous career series, we had a lot of panelists talk about their work in freelance and their work in digital marketing, and it was specifically about e-commerce. So if any of our students are interested about some of those things that Ben and Miranda just mentioned, that webinar is recorded. It's on our YouTube channel. You can learn all about the back side part of those things too. So thank you for mentioning that, because it is an important part of a business, is how you delegate and where tasks and people go. So Stuart, what about you? Can you describe what a typical day looks like for you and what details behind the scenes that people would probably want to know about your work?
Yeah. So I'd say if you ask my friends and family, it never looks like I'm working, but I'm always working. So as a business owner, you're always on call. Especially me, I do IT support and all my clients are on retainer. So it's essentially they prepaid me for support. So now it's my responsibility to deliver. And the success and the length of that relationship will be determined on how well I deliver on that engagement. So starting at 6 a.m, I could get a call from an engineer who's on site at a construction site trying to connect into their office remotely with his laptop and having difficulty, or I might not get a call until noon. And if I worked late the last night, I might sleep in. It all kind of depends. I do go on site to our clients and do install stuff. But with COVID, I've been a big shift to just doing stuff remotely unless it's required for on site. But even though I don't have I'm my own boss. Essentially, I have many bosses. All of my clients are my bosses, and they're all small business owners themselves, which are used to getting things their way because they are the boss. So, dealing with them and providing excellent customer service and attending to that relationship is like the most important thing, and not necessarily what I do, but the way I do it and the visibility to the important people over what I'm doing to make sure everybody is happy when they go to write my check every month.
Gotcha. Definitely very detail-oriented work, which is another great skill set for some of our students to take away, is that, paying attention to detail, customer service, like you mentioned. I think those are skills that you can learn at any entry-level job, whether you're 16 or whether you're 60. So those are great points. Thank you guys for answering those. I'm going to pass it on to Monica, and she's going to keep us going.
Great, perfect. Thank you all. So let's move on to the next question. All right, so let's start with Stuart. What would you say is the most challenging part of your work? And then what would you say is the part you enjoy the most? This is a good one.
This is tough. Yeah, I'd say the most challenging part of my IT business can just be nurturing those relationships. But sometimes the work can be difficult. Like if there's a server that's down and you have to bring it back up and everybody's waiting for you to work until you bring the server back up, that can be stressful. But over time, you learn to deal with that. But I'd say what I enjoy most about it is just the satisfaction of, providing good support. And if somebody calls me with a problem and you fix it for them real quick, they're like, "Oh my God, you're amazing." I'm like, "Oh my God, it's so quick." Taking control of people's computer, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're magic." And, giving me nicknames of Stuart Magic, and just, getting that customer satisfaction over doing good work and seeing how your customers are then able to do their job, and making a bright spot out of like a negative, like the computer broke and they don't really want to talk to their boss about it, but they'll talk to me, and then, "Oh, okay, you fixed it, great." And then they can just do their work because their boss is hounding them to have a certain level of productivity.
Yeah. I mean, positive feedback is always really nice, especially
Yeah.
I mean, for your business, it's always good to have any kind of feedback so that you can improve your
Mhm.
services and your goods and all that. So, but thank you, Stuart. Miranda and Ben, do you have anything else to add? What would you say is the most challenging part of your work? And what would you say you enjoy the most?
I love this. This is how he got through school. I'd say always the most challenging part of a small business, in my opinion, is adapting to never-ending challenges. It could be we stock product, so it could be supply chain problems, it could be manufacturing problems, and especially the past year, but this is always an issue. It could be issues with brands not delivering and fulfilling their end of obligations. It could be filming projects in the city that they don't tell you about, so suddenly customers can't get into your place of business, which means they can't shop. It could be 100,000 different things that you never anticipate happening. So that is, I enjoy the challenge of solving them, but some days you walk in and you're working really hard, you're really tired, and you're like, "Oh, what is it this time?" So that's a challenging part. And always, I agree with Stuart, the most gratifying thing ever are the customers. There's nothing to me, and I came out of doing retail therapy. No one cries in retail therapy.
It's all joy.
Maybe tears of joy, but
Tears of joy.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to be a light in people's lives and it's hard to articulate how important. Maybe it's just a clothing store, it's just a insert word here, but to people who needed that, you don't know what kind of difference you're making in someone's life, who had a really bad day, and that like lifts their spirits. So yeah, that's where the joy comes from.
For sure. I think most challenging for me is probably the management aspects of managing staff, which I'm admittedly not the best at, because I try to be like friend guy.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
Bad cop
There's
situation.
definitely a good cop, bad cop thing. Luckily, there's two of us, so that can work. Because for the first few years, it was just us,
right?
And I didn't have to do any of that. But so I do have issues with that on occasion, and really trying to approach it differently and better. And then the most enjoyable part for me is the relationships, because I've got fostered some amazing relationships with a few brands of ours that we're really, really close with, and we do amazing things with. And then customers, of course, that we refer to them as friendstomers. That's how we met me and John, and now they're BFFs of ours.
The students don't know who they are.
Yeah, they do.
We'll pretend.
Yeah, we'll give them notes later.
Well, I love that. I mean, the whole team we're counselors, so we love interacting with people. We love talking to people. So I really enjoy hearing from both of you that's what you most enjoy about your jobs, because there is a lot of joy in interacting and building relationships beyond the professional. That is really enjoyable. So thank you so much for providing that perspective to our students tonight. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Kristen.
Monica, for our next question, we often don't talk about mistakes. and things that happen, that are a little bit bumpy along the way in anyone's career trajectory. But I think that this is an incredibly important question for our students to understand. So is there a, mistake that you've made along the way, a situation where you thought I should have handled that differently? And what did you learn or glean from that experience? And we'll start with you, Stuart.
Okay, so yeah, I'd say the biggest mistake was pretty recent, and it was with my YouTube channel. So I started doing YouTube just for fun. I like cars. YouTube's a way for me to film cars, drive other people's fast cars. It's a win-win. Slowly it started to get some traction and get some consistent views. When I got to about 40,000 subscribers was about 3 years ago when I had the idea to start OG Social, this new social platform. At that point, my brain shifted okay, now I'm going to be a social media CEO. And I'm still running my IT business. Time is kind of getting tight. What's going to give? The YouTube channel. It's just fun. It's just cars. But I had always planned on having my YouTube channel being the initial jump off point for my platform. So I could get, my videos would range anywhere from 30,000 views to my biggest one's like 600,000. So depending on how it resonates and how the algorithm picks it up, I was hoping on, a little bit of free publicity from my subscribers. But since I went from posting about 1 video a week to 4 videos a year, like once a quarter, now when I post on my YouTube channel, I'm lucky to get like 800 to 1,000 views, and it's just so flat. Whereas if I would have kept it up, first of all, I probably would have been at well over 100,000 subscribers, if not 150. And then my views for my social platform, which I really have invested 3 years and a lot of money in, would be a much better point for marketing, because marketing is something that I'm not experienced at. I'm a tech guy, started a tech company, and now we built the platform, and now my biggest challenge is marketing it and getting it exposure, which is something that's very foreign to me, and I'm learning as I go. So hopefully you guys will hear about it.
Yeah.
And Ben and Miranda, what about you? What is, a mistake or a situation that you feel like, reflecting back on, you could have done something differently? And, what did you really take away from that experience?
Oh boy, that's so good. Business partner?
Yeah, yes.
That's always,
Yeah.
this is a common one that anyone
This-
starting a business could fall into this. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so when we first started, for a myriad of reasons, we thought it would be a good idea for both of us to have a third partner, a business partner. And you guys may have heard the old adage that the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. And
That's a good one.
that was the case. So for a myriad of reasons, about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months in, it kind of came to a head, and I had to have the hard talk with him. We had to part ways, do all the legal stuff. I had to do a buyout, the whole thing. If we were able to do it all over again, we would not have made that choice, and we absolutely could have done it just the two of us.
Yeah.
Just as well, if not better. But something to think about when you're considering starting your own business. If you can at all avoid it, avoid it.
So Ben, I just want to clarify, the mistake or the situation is that you probably would have never brought an additional third-party partner in with you to start.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Taking on a business partner.
Taking on a business partner.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha. No, that's really important. I think in all situations, making sure that whatever working relationships or partnerships you have, that everyone is on the same page is a really important part of building a brand or building a business. So that's a really great lesson for some of our students to hear about.
Well, and I know that some people find, do have good partnerships. And if you do really feel that your only resort is to have a business partner, have a very strong, clearly defined legal agreement that defines what everyone's role is. If things go south, how it's going to be resolved. Just be smart about it.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Great advice. Monica, I'm going to pass it back off to you. And we only have a few more questions. So thank you guys again for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so for our students now, the ones that are joining us, what is a skill they can invest in or learn now if they want to work in a field like yours? And Ben and Miranda, we'll start off with you.
Sure. I'll just echo what I said earlier. If any of these young folks are into either starting a retail business or they're mildly interested in sales,
Or even starting a brand,
work or intern in that field and get a taste from everywhere you can, especially if it's an internship. Do it everywhere you can. And all that stuff is invaluable. Doing the work in the trenches in a real work environment is either going to really like cement that you really want to do it, or you're going to find out that you don't want to do that and you need to figure something else out, which is also important.
Thank you, Ben. Stuart, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, that's really what Ben said. You learn a lot by doing. So if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, then my advice would be just to start and worry about the content and how it's going to evolve after when you're actually doing it. There's only so much planning that's good. After that, it's just kind of like counterproductive. Just start doing it, and the sooner you start, the more you're going to learn, and then it'll just grow from there. And then 3 years, you'll look back from now and you have many videos and lots of growth. For IT, now most community colleges have network management or Windows management or computer classes that are along the same lines that I took in my trade school. The benefit of a community college is they're going to be a lot more affordable. The downside is the class size is going to be a little bit larger and you're not going to have as much direct instruction from a teacher. But I feel like it should be enough of a class to get you some knowledge to find out if you like it, and then maybe try and get an entry-level job in IT, working for an IT department or just some entry-level computer job. So then you can get paid to find out if you like it as a career and then learn even more, because experience is, especially in IT and most things, experience is what is valuable. You know, a degree is only going to get you so far. It's a certificate or it's only going to get you so far. Most people are going to have experience in order to get not an entry-level job. But don't be afraid to get an entry-level job. That's where everybody starts, what they call it entry level. So you just start at the bottom and outwork everybody, and before you know it, you will be where you want to be. And then doors will just magically open, because everybody wants to work with a person that works hard and that's positive and that volunteers for work when it's asked to be assigned. That's the people that they want to take to other jobs when they leave and are presented with better opportunities for their friends.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you both make great points, and I do want to stress a couple of them. One of those was, you know, doing all this different work, not just to get experience, but also to learn if that's the field you actually want to stay in. That's a message that we talk to our students about constantly as counselors, is to explore their options, explore their careers, to figure out if that's the career they actually will enjoy doing, and also just to gain those skills. So I really wanted to stress those 2 points that both of you made. But thank you. I'm gonna pass it on to Kristen.
We're actually on to our last official question of the evening, and then we have a few questions from some of our friends and family that are joining us tonight. But this one is just to wrap up, you know, on a really nice note, wrap it up in a bow for our students. You know, what is the best piece of professional advice that you've received? It could be specific to your industry. It could be just general working practices as an entrepreneur. You know, what is something that you think students should definitely hear about?
Interesting. Stuart?
So I can't, thanks, Ben. I can't think of one offhand. So I'm just going to expand on the previous question a little bit. when I started my IT schooling, I had no IT knowledge at all. So when I went to IT computer school, I didn't know what a right click did on the mouse because we grew up with a Mac. This was the year 2000. So I had no idea what a right click did, but I had a interest in technology. I was like audio equipment, and I installed like my car stereo, and like I always liked tech. So I figured that like that was enough to keep me interested in this being a career. And I was absolutely right. Like just that interest. You don't have to have any preconceived knowledge, or you don't have to be like some computer kid. Like a lot of my friends like worked with computers and like built their own computers. I couldn't do any of that, but I knew I had an interest in it, and that was enough to keep me passionate about this as a form to make money, and then eventually grow to love it, and then just kind of evolves. But you don't need to feel like you're a computer person to be a computer person. That's what school's for.
That's
And jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ben and Miranda, what about you? Is there, a piece of professional advice that you guys have received or even thought yourselves along the way that you thought this is really invaluable just as a good practice?
I'll just share one we're currently going through ourselves. I mean, because I think if you're lucky, you never stop learning no matter how old you get. I think not to be afraid of success. That sounds crazy. Fear of success is a real thing. And that involves letting go of things and people and places that maybe don't help you get where you're trying to go. And don't be afraid to do that. I know that's a personal thing, but it is so relevant to business. I mean, often I think we can hang on to business relationships or all kinds of things that actually are hindering the growth of the business or the success of the business out of feelings of loyalty or whatever we have tied up inside, because we all make emotional decisions in our business. But really being able to look at that and say, is this decision good for my business? Is this on the path to me being successful? And I'm definitely not talking about being ruthless as a business person. I'm just talking about making sure you're aware and really checking in all the time. What isn't serving your business well?
Yep.
I think those are great points. All across the conversation this evening, we've been able to talk about partnerships. We've been able to talk about intricacies in being the boss and what that entails. And that entails a lot of what you've been able to echo, all three of you this evening, about being responsible for even the ugly parts that you don't really want to do, and then the wonderful parts that really fulfill, your career path. Right now, I'm going to open it up for questions for the families that are joining us. And then we actually have a few that have already come in that I want to clarify with all of you as well. So for Ben and Miranda, you do still have your stores. I just want to confirm that for the families that are joining us. So give a shout out to your stores and where they are and where to find you.
Yeah, currently our flagship and where we do all the online fulfillment is in downtown Long Beach.
Soon to be
Highland Park
in Los Angeles. We're moving it to LA.
To LA. So in about a month or so, we'll be moving it to Highland Park in Los Angeles. 5711 North Figueroa. And our national store is in East Nashville, and it is inside of the Urban Cowboy Hotel.
Awesome.
Yep.
The next question is for all of our panelists. What is one word or phrase that you would use to describe this pandemic?
To describe what?
The pandemic.
Oh.
And I'll follow that up. There's a second part to that question. What would you describe this pandemic has been like for you? And are there any practices or things that you've done to pivot that you're going to keep after as a result of that?
I like what you're saying, because I think it's been one of the greatest opportunities to adapt. We were talking about adaptation, and the pandemic has all been about adaptation and how willing you are to adapt as a human, as a business owner. Those who have been most open to it have weathered it much better than those who haven't.
Yeah. So to add to that a little bit, so our business was probably 65% online prior, and then it quickly shifted to probably 98% online. Obviously, people weren't going out and shopping, and we weren't allowing customers in either of the stores for a period of time. And we had to get creative and really direct people to e-com over physical retail.
But the result was, as intentionally putting our efforts into that, was growing our business over previous years and expanding our business. So adaptation can work.
Yes.
That's great. And Stuart, you work predominantly like in IT. I think the assumption is you work online all the time. But
I know I'm pretty fortunate. Everybody relies on technology. It just shifted to all remote. So I had to make sure all my clients could work remotely. It resulted in more work up front and then kind of less work as it carried on. But that's the good thing about my business as a consultant. We service clients that are in a range of different industries. So if one gets hit hard, we have CPAs, law firms, and schools, and so luckily they didn't really get hit hard, but everybody needs technology, so it's only so much that can be with that.
Awesome. And
so I got lucky.
Any practice like that you've taken away from the current environment in the pandemic that you feel like will impact your business and moving forward into the future that you would keep?
I just think about the weight that I've gained. That's the only thing I can think about.
Yeah.
I heard that from everybody. You're not alone in that. So
everybody was home exercising and baking bread, and we were putting in 90-hour weeks. So maybe we did some of it wrong, but but a lot of what we figured out and adapted, we will carry on forever as long as this business is a thing and we're alive doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, we've implemented some things that have been crucial to our growth during COVID. Yeah.
That's great. That's great to hear. I think we hear a lot, obviously, in the news or in the media about how businesses are hurting. And of course, they absolutely are. It's been a really tough time for a lot of business owners, but it's great to hear that there have been some positive outcomes. I
would like to make one little quick comment for people who are interested. I think that it is incredibly depressing because you don't hear any of success stories. And I want to say, like, the business community in LA that we're moving to, one of the reasons we're choosing to move our business is because the business community is incredibly vibrant and has adapted really, really well. Many of the businesses are expanding. I'm talking about even restaurants.
And the community there supports it.
And the community supports it.
Yeah.
So it's really refreshing to see that type of creativity coming out of what it's a lot of doom and gloom that all retail is dead, restaurants and bars are dead, and it's not true.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you guys for clarifying that for all of our families who are listening. That's really important. We have a few questions for all of you, and then I have some pointed questions too. If you were in high school right now, so think back, some of us farther than others, but you're a high school student, 16 or 17, is there something, or what would you have done differently to better your business today if you were thinking from the very beginning?
So I'll take that. I'll start. So first of all, I just want to say I am 40, and I didn't own my own business until I was 35. So I feel like you should have a realistic expectation of when you can achieve the. It's an outstanding accomplishment to own a successful company. But I would just start learning computers earlier. I mentioned I didn't know what a right click did when I was 18. I would have hung around my buddies who were like legit computer nerds and like, yo, what are you doing? And been way more on that, and just started earlier. And instead of having my first jobs been Carl's Jr. dishwasher busboy, I should have gone and like worked at Best Buy or Circuit City, because it existed back then, or something that was more tech related, to get a little bit more experience out of that minimum wage job.
Gotcha. Ben and Miranda, you both had really different starts to your business. So thinking back to high school versions of yourselves, is there anything that you would have done differently from the jump?
I want to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the very like type A pragmatic one, but I would really want to push teenage me to move to California,
Yeah.
really to be able to put myself in an environment where I could have understood what the possibilities that exist for. I was a very creative person. I was an artist. I was a musician. And through all, it just gave it all up because I just was like, this isn't practical. I'm never going to make a living being creative. That's not a possibility. I have to have a, at least a master's degree, and I was given two options in life: study law or study medicine. That's where I was being told I needed to go. So I definitely would have relocated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think high school me probably would have tried to get a little better grade average and not had to go to summer school twice to graduate on time.
Okay.
So if you're in school and you get terrible grades, maybe get a little better grades and not have to go to summer school twice.
There we go. Ben, I have
Same.
just like a follow-up question, because you started out as a musician. Did you have any merch? Any tour merch?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I did a lot of different stuff. I was in several different bands, toured all over the Southeast, but I had my most success when I was a hired gun and I was just a touring musician for established acts and did recording sessions for some terrible rap rock bands. But it was a lot of fun. I made some good money. And then, things change, life change. And here we are selling slacks and blouses.
Cool. So one last question for all of you, unless we have any other students who want to submit some questions through the Q&A. What are habits that you, any of you, practice daily that you believe contribute to your success?
I can do.
Yeah, you go.
Organizational skills, and always trying to improve the organizational skills of the team, constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
utilizing all types of there's so many amazing apps I could nerd out about forever that help people who lack organizational skills. You don't really, like, this guy doesn't have it innately and I do, but there are so many tools available to help fill in those missing. We can't all be good at everything, but there are tools to help us, and it's one of the, I think, the beautiful things about modern technology and apps versus when we used to carry day planners and have to write everything down. So that's a big practice of mine.
Yeah, I guess mine, I don't even know what you call it necessarily, but I really, anytime we have these talks with anybody, anywhere, whether it's this kind of forum or colleagues or customers that want to know our stories, I always go back to, you get out what you put in. So literally on a daily level, like a slice of life thing, it's just like Stuart says, I may not look like I'm working, but I'm working, and it never turns off, and I'm doing 17,000 things at any given moment. And that is why, as a big part of why we are where we are.
Yeah, and you took the words, you read my mind. I was literally about to say, you get out what you put in. And I was a mediocre student. I did just enough to keep my parents off my back, but which I regret. But at the same, when I switched into working, all of a sudden it was like, oh, I realized if I work hard, then I can get stuff, which, I like cars. So I want a Porsche. Okay, if I bust ass right now, I can get that. And that's like a means to an end. And it really was. And I wish I would have realized that earlier on in school and applied the same thing, but I did figure it out in business. And it's definitely the key to my success, and is why I'm in this position where my business partner trusted me to buy his company. And then, it only evolves from there. And you're only going to be put in those positions if you embody the person that you would think would be in that position, a hardworking,
Right.
consistent, honest, positive, passionate person.
Awesome. I have one last question specifically for you, Stuart. One of our students just wants a little bit of clarification about the specific mistake you feel like you made between your YouTube channel and OG Social. And do you think there like a better outcome would have resulted if you had your sole focus on only one or on both? Can you just clarify that a little bit for them?
Yeah, I definitely spread myself a little thin, but it's consistency. I felt like I should have figured out a way to maintain my YouTube channel, whether it meant bringing on an editor or asking for additional help, and figuring that out as just, I shifted in my mind. I'm like, okay, this isn't as important anymore. And I treated it that way. And, you know, the results show. I just wish I would have been more mindful of how valuable that audience was that I earned, and that it wasn't guaranteed. And even though now my channel still gets like, I think it averages like 20,000 views a month, because it's considered evergreen content. I make car reviews, so everybody's always interested in like a BMW M3, and you know, everybody was always shopping for these random cars. So it gets good views on past videos, but new content, the algorithm doesn't pick up. Which is how my platform is different. We don't do things, we do things chronologically. We let users decide who earns the money off their account profits. So, but yeah, just being consistent. And when you start to spread yourself too thin, bring on a friend. You know, that's when you can bring somebody else on to help you, because don't be afraid to ask for help, and delegate, which is also something I struggle with, is delegation, letting go. But it's better that it gets done to a lower quality of standard than not getting done at all, in most cases. And then you can refine it and, you know, get that process to where you want to see it, but it's better than it just abandoning it, you know.
Gotcha. I appreciate that clarification. I'm sure our student does too. We have a little feedback survey for our families that are here tonight. It's just a QR code, so all you need to do to take it is just open your phone camera. It will scan and it will lead you to our quick little 5-minute survey. It helps us create content like this for our families that is specific to questions that you all have and industries that you want. So please take a few seconds to do that. And then for the rest of our time this evening, I want to give Miranda, Ben, and Stuart a chance to talk about their business and where you can find them, where you can meet or see them. All of the questions and their bios will be included in a follow-up email with our slide deck. So your socials are in there, but I want to give you guys the rest of the time this evening to talk about what you do and to plug your business for the families that are joining us tonight.
Radical. Yeah, so Miranda and I own Snake Oil Provisions, which is a specialized men's clothing boutique. We do men's basics, so it's shirting, jeans, outerwear, footwear, most of which is domestic and or made in Japan. You can find us online at snakeoilprovisions.com, Instagram at Snake Oil Provisions, and at Mrs._Snake Oil Provisions. That's that one.
That's this one.
Yeah, so that's our whole deal.
Fantastic. And OG Social is my big adventure. That's the exciting one. IT by Us is my IT company. That's not as exciting. But ogsocial.com is where you can get information about that. Our social platform is essentially going up against Instagram. It's like Instagram, but with no ads. We protect your privacy. We do that by charging for access to the platform. So there's no free accounts, but that means there's no fake accounts. And it also allows us to pay creators $1 a month for every follower they bring to our platform, which is set up like Instagram used to be. That's why we call it OG Social, chronological timeline, stories, sports video, on Apple and Android in both stores now. You should check it out. It has built-in content filtering, so we're making it family friendly, but each user can control their own filter settings. So you can control what you see as opposed to limiting what other people post. And we're just trying to take out all the bad things about social, and the limiting factors, like not being able to post a link to something in your Instagram post. Those things that are purposely pigeonholing us is what we're trying to solve, along with the much bigger data privacy issues, which are just getting way out of control. but I'll leave it at that. I could talk for a lot about that, but ogsocial.com, tell your friends about it. It's new, it's exciting, and we're trying to go up against the Goliaths to correct the issues with technology that are in a lot of these apps.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I can't express how valuable this information is to hear from professionals, what your experience is like in all of the variety of work that you do. Again, for our families, take our quick feedback survey, and this recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel by the end of the week, probably by tomorrow. But thank you again to Stuart, to Ben, and Miranda for joining us this evening.
Yeah,
Thanks again.
Yes.
Great.
Please reach out to them on social media, check out their businesses and what they do. And if our students have any additional questions about these panels or other presentations that we have planned for the year, feel free to reach out to us at CUSD-Futureology on our Instagram and through email.
Oh yeah, and if any of the students have any questions at all regarding anything that we do, we're super fast to respond via DM.
Well, it's us responding. It's not hiring
actually
people.
us.
So if you DM us, you're getting us.
Yeah, we run our account.
Yeah.
So yeah, just holler.
That's great.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much for being willing to do that. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I also want to thank you, all three of you, for this wonderful conversation, for sharing your experiences, for sharing your background, for sharing your businesses. And I also want to, recognize Stuart's background. It's amazing. I don't think we did that this whole time,
Thanks, guys.
but it looks
Well done.
incredible. Yes. But
It's all a business write-off. It's all write-off. Another benefit to owning your own business.
Well, I think we thank you for the wonderful feedback. We're getting some wonderful feedback from our people in joining us tonight, but I think we're ready to close it off for tonight.
Have a great
Thanks for having us.
evening,
Thanks
everyone.
for having us.
Yeah, take care,
you.
everybody.
Good night.